Welcome to a journey through history as we delve into the lives and legacies of some of the most remarkable Native American chiefs and leaders. These visionary individuals, hailing from diverse tribes across the vast expanse of North America, forged paths of resilience, wisdom, and courage. From Sitting Bull's fierce determination to Crazy Horse's unwavering spirit, join us in exploring the stories of these great leaders who shaped the destiny of their people and left an indelible mark on the legendary Native American legacy. Remember to hit the like button because it helps us a lot. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the notification bell to not miss the upcoming interesting videos. Sitting Bull, 1831 to 1890. Sitting Bull was a Hunkpapa Lakota leader who led his people during the years of resistance against United States government policies. He was born among the Lakota tribe in modern-day South Dakota and rose to fame as a warrior rapidly. Sitting Bull's leadership talents and military methods contributed to his people's esteem. Sitting Bull was well recognized for his role in the Great Sioux War of 1876, also known as the Black Hills War. This tumultuous period was triggered by the U.S. government's violation of the Treaty of Fort Laramie, as they sought to extract precious gold from the revered Black Hills of the Lakota people. In response, Sitting Bull masterminded a united front comprising various tribes, including the Cheyenne and Arapaho, to confront the encroaching American military forces. A defining moment in Sitting Bull's legacy came at the Battle of the Little Bighorn, where his strategic prowess led to a resounding triumph over General Custer and his troops. This extraordinary victory solidified Sitting Bull's status as a revered hero among Native Americans across the land. However, the tide eventually turned, leading to his surrender and subsequent placement onto a designated reservation. Later, he persisted in his advocacy for Native Americans' rights and traveled to Europe to increase awareness of their plight. Tragically, on December 15, 1890, he was killed by an Indian Agency police on the Standing Rock Indian Reservation during an attempt to arrest him, at a time when authorities feared that he would join the Ghost Dance movement. Sitting Bull's body was taken to Fort Yates, where it was placed in a coffin made by the Army carpenter and buried. However, in 1953, Sitting Bull's remains were moved to Mobridge, South Dakota, where he is honored with an appropriate monument. Sitting Bull's legacy as a warrior and leader continues to inspire Native Americans today. Geronimo, 1829 to 1909. Geronimo was a leader and medicine man from the Bedonkohe band of the Dendahe Apache people. From 1850 to 1886, Geronimo joined with the members of three other Central Apache bands, the Chihinde, the Tsokahinde, called Chiricahua by Americans, and the Nedni, to carry out numerous raids, as well as fight against Mexican and U.S. military campaigns in the northern Mexico states of Chihuahua and Sonora, and in the southwestern American territories of New Mexico and Arizona. Geronimo rose to become one of the most feared and well-known Native American commanders of his era. In 1886, after an intense pursuit in northern Mexico by American forces that followed Geronimo's third 1885 reservation breakout, Geronimo surrendered for the last time to the Lieutenant Charles Bear Gatewood. He and his people were relocated to reserves in Florida and, later, Oklahoma, where he advocated for Native American rights. In 1905, he was quite the sensation when he appeared in President Theodore Roosevelt's inaugural parade. Geronimo also participated in several other attractions that displayed him to curious onlookers, including the Omaha and Buffalo expositions and the St. Louis World's Fair in 1904. These many events, coupled with Geronimo's fierce reputation, made him one of the most photographed Native Americans of the time. Geronimo dictated his memoirs, published in 1906 as Geronimo's Story of His Life. Finally, Geronimo died of pneumonia on February 17, 1909, and was buried in the Apache Cemetery at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Crazy Horse, 1840 to 1877. Crazy Horse was a Lakota war leader of the Ogallala Band in the 19th century. He took up arms against the United States federal government to fight against encroachment by white American settlers on Native American territory and to preserve the traditional way of life for the Lakota people. His participation in several famous battles of the Black Hills War on the northern Great Plains, among them the Fetterman Fight in 1866, in which he acted as a decoy, and the Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876, in which he led a war party to victory, earned him great respect from both his enemies and his own people. In September 1877, 4 months after surrendering to U.S. troops under General George Crook, Crazy Horse was killed by a guard while allegedly resisting imprisonment at Camp Robinson in present-day Nebraska. His legacy continues to inspire Native Americans and those who seek to preserve and appreciate the history and customs of indigenous peoples. He was honored by the U.S. Postal Service in 1982 with a 13-cent Great Americans Series postage stamp. Chief Joseph, 1840 to 1904. Chief Joseph was a Nez Perce leader who led his people on a 1,200-mile march to avoid U.S. Army forces in 1877. After his father died in 1871, he became the leader of the Nez Perce Willowa Band in modern-day Oregon. Chief Joseph led his band of Nez Perce during the most tumultuous period of their history, when they were forcibly removed by the United States federal government from their ancestral lands in the Wallowa Valley of northeastern Oregon onto a significantly reduced reservation in the Idaho Territory. A series of violent encounters with white settlers in the spring of 1877 culminated in the Nez Perce, who resisted removal, including Joseph's band and an allied band of the Palouse tribe, to flee the United States in an attempt to reach political asylum alongside the Lakota people, who had sought refuge in Canada under the leadership of Sitting Bull. At least 800 men, women, and children, led by Joseph and other Nez Perce chiefs, were pursued by the U.S. Army under General Oliver O. Howard in a 1,200-mile fighting retreat known as the Nez Perce War. The skill with which the Nez Perce fought and the manner in which they conducted themselves in the face of incredible adversity earned them widespread admiration from their military opponents and the American public, and coverage of the war in U.S. newspapers led to popular recognition of Chief Joseph and the Nez Perce. Despite his efforts, Chief Joseph and his people were apprehended by U.S. Army forces in Montana, roughly 40 miles from the Canadian border. They were forced to surrender and were taken to a reservation in Oklahoma. Chief Joseph spent the rest of his life fighting for Native American rights and trying to improve conditions for his people on the reservation. Chief Joseph died on September 21, 1904, according to his doctor, of a broken heart. Meany and Curtis helped Joseph's family bury their chief near the village of Nespelem, Washington, where many of his tribe's members still live. Red Cloud, 1822 to 1909. Red Cloud was a leader of the Ogallala Lakota from 1865 to 1909. He was one of the most capable Native American opponents whom the United States Army faced in the Western Territories. He defeated the United States during Red Cloud's War, which was a fight over control of the Powder River country in northeastern Wyoming and southern Montana. The largest action of the war was the 1866 Fetterman Fight, with 81 U.S. soldiers killed. It was the worst military defeat suffered by the U.S. Army on the Great Plains until the Battle of the Little Bighorn 10 years later. Red Cloud was also influential in the 1868 Treaty of Fort Laramie, which granted the Lakota sovereignty over a large portion of their traditional territory in present-day South Dakota's Black Hills region. Notwithstanding his achievements, Red Cloud faced enormous challenges in the years that followed as the U.S. government began to impinge on Native American territory and resources. He devoted the most of his later life to advocating for his people's rights and preserving Lakota customs and culture. In 1909, Red Cloud died on Pine Ridge Reservation. At 87 years old, he outlived nearly all the other major Lakota leaders of the Indian Wars. He was buried there in a cemetery that now bears his name. Cochise, 1805 to 1874. Cochise was leader of the Chiricahui local group of the Chokonen and principal Nantan of the Chokonen Band of the Chiricahua Apache. A key war leader during the Apache Wars, he led an uprising that began in 1861 and persisted until a peace treaty was negotiated in 1872. Cochise resisted American advance until his death in 1874. He's remembered today through the names of various geographic features in the Southwest, notably Cochise County in Arizona and Cochise Stronghold in the Dragoon Mountains. His memory continues on as a reminder of the continuous struggle for Native American acknowledgement and rights. Chief Seattle, 1786 to 1866. Chief Seattle was a Squamish and Duwamish chief. A leading figure among his people, he pursued a path of accommodation to white settlers, forming a personal relationship with Doc Maynard. The city of Seattle in the U.S. state of Washington was named after him. Chief Seattle is most known for delivering a speech to a delegation of U.S. government officials wanting to buy Native American territory in 1854. In his statement, he addressed his people's profound connection to the land, as well as their concerns about the impact of settlement on their way of life. Despite Chief Seattle's diplomatic efforts, his people were eventually forced to relocate to a reservation. He pushed for Native American rights and tried to preserve his people's heritage and traditions during his senior years. Finally, he died June 7, 1866, on the Squamish Reservation at Port Madison, Washington. His legacy motivates people to work for a more just and equal society. Quanah Parker, 1845 to 1911. The last chief of the Quahati Comanche, Quanah Parker was both a major resistor to white settlers and a leader in the tribe's adjustment to reservation life. Quanah was born around 1845 to Chief Peta Nocona and Cynthia Ann Parker, a white captive of the Comanche near the Wichita Mountains of Oklahoma. Quanah Parker led Comanche raids against American villages and troops in the 1860s and 1870s, opposing American expansion into Comanche territory. Following the apprehension of several Kiowa chiefs in 1871, Quanah Parker emerged as a dominant figure in the Red River War, clashing repeatedly with Colonel Ronald S. Mackenzie. With European Americans hunting American bison, the Comanche's primary sustenance, into near extinction, Quanah Parker eventually surrendered and peaceably led the Quahati into a reservation at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Quanah Parker also sought to better his people's lives by supporting education, agriculture, and other types of economic development. He led the Comanche tribe until his death in 1911. He is buried at Chief's Knoll on Fort Sill. Many cities and highway systems in southwest Oklahoma and north Texas, once Southern Comancheria, bear reference to his name. He is recognized today as a Native American resistance hero and a symbol of the ongoing struggle for Native American rights and recognition. Victorio, 1825 to 1880. Victorio was a warrior and a chief of the Warm Springs Band of the Chithinde Division of the Central Apaches in what is now the American states of Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and the Mexican states of Sonora and Chihuahua. In Victorio's war from September 1879 to October 1880, Victorio led a band of Apaches, never numbering more than 200 men, in a running battle with the U.S. and Mexican armies and the civilian population of New Mexico, Texas, and northern Mexico, fighting 24 skirmishes and battles. He and most of his followers were killed or captured by the Mexican army in the Battle of Tres Castillos in October 1880. Tecumseh, 1768 to 1813. Tecumseh was a Shawnee chief and warrior who promoted resistance to the expansion of the United States onto Native American lands. Born in 1768 at the Shawnee village of Piqua on the Mad River, southwest of the present-day city of Springfield, Ohio, Tecumseh grew up to be a highly skilled warrior, orator, and statesman who advocated civilized resistance. His father, who was also a chief, was killed at the Battle of Point Pleasant in 1774. Tecumseh believed that in order to oppose American encroachment onto their territory, the tribes needed to band together. He traveled widely to neighboring Native American tribes in search of a confederacy to safeguard their territory and way of life. During the War of 1812, he also formed alliances with British forces in the hopes that they would aid him in his war against the Americans. The following year, he also led an unsuccessful campaign against the United States in Ohio and Indiana. When U.S. naval forces took control of Lake Erie in 1813, Tecumseh reluctantly retreated with the British into Upper Canada, where American forces engaged them at the Battle of the Thames on October 5, 1813, in which Tecumseh was killed. His death caused his confederacy to collapse. The lands he had fought to defend were eventually ceded to the U.S. government. Tecumseh is remembered today as a hero and a visionary leader who battled for his people's rights. Please like and share if you find the video content interesting and useful. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment below so as not to miss the upcoming interesting videos. Thanks for watching.